A most blessed day to everyone, and welcome to this Universalist Church of West Hartford. My name is Reverend Joy Christi Przestwor, and I am the community-affiliated minister here and also the pastoral care assistant. Today, we have gathered to celebrate the life of Sally. She brought delight, thoughtfulness, and creativity to all of her endeavors, whether it was riding her bicycle, walking through the woods, or just sitting on her bed laughing. Her presence here is held in each of our memories as we gather this day. Sally loved this community. She loved being here, just being here. A lesson for all of us to take from her. She was engaged in this community's outreach into the wider world. I hold personally dear the many times we shared thoughts about articles and ideas that we found within the pages of the UU World magazine, or in the New York Times, or even in the Hartford Courant, believe it or not. I welcome all of you on her behalf and on her daughter's behalf. We have gathered in this sacred space, some of us for the first time in a long time, some of us for the first time ever. Sally loved this sanctuary and all the people with whom she shared her spiritual journey within these walls and in the walls you'll share later after the service and in this campus. One of our important actions when we begin any service or gathering as Unitarian Universalists is to light our chalice. This action connects us with all our ancestors, as well as all those who presently belong to our association and to this community. I call on all of us now, as we light this chalice, to share together the covenant that's written in your program, and bring Sally's celebration of life into our circle of concern, care, and love. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. If you are willing and able, please rise to sing hymn number 21, For the Beauty of the Earth, in the gray hymnals. And now I invite Lisa Cook to do a reading.
Hello, just checking here. Great to see everyone. Gone from My Sight by Reverend Luther Breacher. I am standing upon the seashore. A ship at my side spreads her white sails to the morning breeze and starts for the blue ocean. She is an object of beauty and strength. And I stand and I watch her until she hangs like a speck of white cloud just where the sea and sky come down to meet and mingle with each other. Then someone at my side says, "There, she is gone." Gone where? Gone from my sight, that is all. She is just as large in mast and hull and spar as she was when she left my side, and just as able to bear her living load of freight to the place of her destination. Her diminished size is in me, not in her. And just at the moment when someone at my side says, "There, she is gone," there are other eyes watching her coming, and other voices ready to take up the glad shout, "Here she comes." And that is dying.
And now I invite Holly and Doug Letts, Sally's nephew, to do their remembrance.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's so nice to see all of your faces. I wanted to reach out more to people, but obviously it's been challenging, so I'm happy. We have a reception afterwards, and I'll be happy to talk to all of you. So, Sally Sarkissian, more than a mother, a daughter, a sister, an aunt, a cousin, a friend, or even a loving in-law. She was the most amazing human. A born and raised New Englander with her two parents, an older sister Nancy cheering her on, my mom decided that she wasn't about the status quo. In junior high, she became a drummer in the band, a hobby that she continued throughout her life, practicing on drum pads, furniture, and even plastic Tupperware containers, which you can do from anywhere. Now that the Barlow sisters have gone on together, it may only be fitting to use my Aunt Nancy Barlow Letts's words to describe my mom. Besides, I couldn't say it better than my Aunt Nancy, and her son Doug is going to speak for the voice of Nancy.
Not in her voice, though. Hi, it's nice to see everyone. When I say our mom, my sister Allison's here, my sister Lori. Oh, thank you. I have a loud voice, I can yell. Our mom used to say that Sally always listened to her and Dad's suggestions about changing her behavior, and she would agree completely with whatever their suggestions were. Then she would leave and do whatever she wanted. In fact, Dad once described Sally as marching to the beat of a different drummer. I shared with Holly Sally's care for the last 4.5 years. It wasn't just a different drummer, it was a different drum. She would think she was on beat sometimes and be way off beat. She was sometimes dead on, and she was always enjoying the idea of being a drummer, and I do believe that she was her own drummer.
So, college at Bucknell University wasn't my mom's cup of tea, but she also wasn't one to miss great opportunities. She remained good friends with her college roommates and took that opportunity in her life to travel, holding summer jobs in Virginia Beach, Yellowstone National Park, and as soon as she graduated, she was a barmaid in London for the summer. Her love of travel and adventure was a theme throughout her life, and a love which you may have heard she passed on to me. Before the rise of the internet, she even used to teach vacation planning classes at the local community college. In her 60s and 70s, she was also active in Friendship Force and various travel groups, which took her to Turkey, Greece, Morocco, and Russia, to name a few. She was also eager to join me during my international work travels and came with me on trips to Canada and Norway. Her sister wrote more.
Did she? For sure. Wrote, it may be the marching to the beat of your own drum requires a lot of thought before making the best choices. Sally can take a longer time than anyone. I don't know about longer than anyone, but she took a long time to make decisions. She wanted things to be perfect all the time. And this is aside from what's written right here. For any of you who are on her list of birthday cards, Christmas cards, 4th of July cards, as her nephew, getting to spend 55 years going to the mailbox the day before Halloween and knowing that there would be a card there, always having a card there, I know how much it meant to me. And then with all of the time that I got to spend with her, I found out how much it meant to her towards each of you. She had that list, and she felt stress if she did not have your cards set up, and if she wasn't thinking 3 weeks before, whatever she was going to send it for, what did I want to write on there? How was I going to touch Matthew as deeply as I could touch Matthew? How could I say hello to Terrence and welcome him into the group of friends and family? She was a really sweet person. She took a long time to make up her mind, whether it was picking the right church, a friend, a birthday gift, or any card that she sent to any of us. Likewise, she took her time finding the perfect man to marry, and at 32, she didn't find him at 32, but she married Peter. Slow again to make up her mind until she was ready, Sally did become a mom 7 years later at age 39. From that day forward, daughter Holly joined Peter to become one of the two most important people in Sally's life.
And taking her time to pick the right church and the right person to marry is something for which I hold much gratitude. It led my mom here to this congregation where I grew up and where she remained active throughout the rest of her years. This church has provided community to both of us throughout our changing life phases. So with her sister Nancy and those closest to her, my mom would share hard times, proud times, laughter, and tears. She would tell my aunt updates like, I have Graves' disease, she announced to Nancy in her 50s, and a short time later she shared, Pete has prostate cancer. She also shared, this is drawn from Nancy's recollections herself, she also shared, Holly got straight A's her first semester at Brandeis, and Holly is spending a semester in Africa. I clearly inherited her adventurous spirit. My mom was also dedicated to helping and including others. Though her activism for causes such as women's rights played a big role in her life before me, her deep sense of purpose in giving and loving started at home. Everyone was welcome to the Thanksgiving feast she prepared each year, including my grandmother's unmarried friend, Hildegard, who had no family of her own and talked the ears off of those around her. She also volunteered to host an exchange student from Taiwan and her family who were not yet fluent in English. My mom was always ready to host my friends from all walks of life, childhood friends from down the street, college friends from Kentucky, Colorado, who couldn't travel back for the holidays, and providing an American holiday experience to my international friends from India and Japan. Many had the opportunity to spend one-on-one time with her, drinking coffee, exchanging stories, and discussing recipes and current events while I would sleep in. I can imagine they felt comfortable sharing and laughing with her because that's just how warm and awesome she was. Having Sally as a mother was also a grand adventure. When I was little, she planned elaborate birthday parties for me, once setting up a haunted house in a tent in the backyard, complete with spooky music. She also loved traditions. In the fall, we would go apple picking, and at Christmas, we would drink eggnog and decorate the house and the tree. For Easter, we would cook or go out for an elaborate brunch. Some of you have joined us here. And friends and family were always welcome to any of these events. She would also offer all of her guests ice cream. She had inherited an extra freezer from her mother, which she kept in the basement, only stocked with ice cream. So whenever guests would come over, she would ask, "What flavor do you want?" And they would reply, "What flavors do you have?" To which she would reply, "What flavor do you want?" Knowing she would likely have whatever flavor they desired. During my dad's illness, I learned the true depth of my mom's strength and determination. Once again, my aunt gave a wonderful description.
During the year and a half that Pete was bedridden, first in the hospital for emergency surgery on his deteriorating spine, then in a rehab center, and finally at home in a hospital bed, I listened to Sally's challenges and followed her growth. What seemed daunting to her early on, like calling a doctor and asking for help, became nothing more than routine. Sally rose to each and every challenge of an imperfect medical system and fought valiantly for Pete, repeating the mantra, one day at a time.
I've used that mantra to get through this time period, one day at a time. So after my dad died, my mom rose like a phoenix from the ashes, rebuilding her life, thanking everyone with personalized notes who helped in my dad's care. She followed through on cleaning out the house and eventually downsizing, and she made plans to engage in the activities she loved. This included traveling, eating good food, and performing volunteer work, such as grocery shopping for women in their 80s and 90s. She also befriended the neighbor's 3-year-old son, who anytime he would see her, he would enthusiastically yell, "Hi, Sally! Hi, Sally!" Whenever he saw her, and they had a block party on the street with a bouncy castle, and he only wanted to jump on the bouncy castle with my mom. My dad called my mom the nicest person he had ever met. And many people during this time have written me and said similar things, that she was one of the nicest people, or the nicest person they'd ever met. Legend has it that she got angry, in her words, at a client at work and yelled at them. Later on, she received a thank you note from that client, complimenting her for being so nice and easy to work with. She was not just receiving thank you cards, as Doug already mentioned, and many of you know from personal experience. She was the master of choosing the perfect card with a funny or heartfelt message. She kept up correspondences by mail throughout the decades and would often find unique and thoughtful gifts for her friends and family. During the last year, this past year, I mentioned to her that she and her sister were the only ones who really sent me physical mail. And so now with her sister's passing, I was missing out on half the mail that I received. So hearing me say that, she amped it up, and she was sending me things in the mail on a weekly basis, which I really enjoyed. My mom and I continued these traditions and adventures up until the very end. This year in 2022, I've been living in Texas, thousands of miles away, and I am extremely grateful that we've been able to see each other and even travel together 3 times this year, despite the distance. So we were having new adventures even until the week before she passed, when I was able to officiate my friend's wedding, and she was so proud of me. My mom was there, rooting me on and sharing how proud she was. I'm so grateful to have had the adventurous, kind, generous, and non-judgmental presence of Sally Sarkissian in my life. I hope to continue to be more and more like her as I grow up. By emulating her amazing qualities, she will live on in me, I hope.
My birthday's coming. I won't call it.
Death is inevitable. It is a condition of life. And it always presents us a challenge in being able to accept the whole cycle of being as good and true and real. The naturalist and essayist John Burroughs writes, "The laws of life and death are as they should be. The laws of matter and force are as they should be. I have had life on those terms, and somewhere, somehow, the course of nature is justified. I shall not be in that grave where you bury my body. I shall be diffused in the soil, in the air, in the sunshine, in the hearts of those who love me. In all the living and flowing currents of the world, my elements and my forces go back into the original sources out of which they came, and those sources are perennial in this vast, wonderful, and divine cosmos." Sally is no longer a living person in a body, and that is as it must be. And it can be difficult for us to not resent this part of existence, for our human hearts to calmly accept the truth that death is inevitable. So we must acknowledge it, but that doesn't mean it's welcome or easy when it comes. Edna St. Vincent Millay writes in her poem Dirge Without Music, "I am not resigned to the shutting away of loving hearts in the hard ground. So it is, and so it will be, for so it has been, time out of mind. Into the darkness they go, the wise and the lovely. Crowned with lilies and with laurel they go, but I am not resigned. Down, down, down into the darkness of the grave, gently they go, the beautiful, the tender, the kind. Quietly they go, the intelligent, the witty, the brave. I know, but I do not approve, and I am not resigned." although we have no choice but to accept the reality of death, to say goodbye to the daily bodily presence of those we know and hold dear, we need not be resigned to the fading of lives. In this room, we all have different ideas about what happens after death. We believe and we wonder, we imagine, but the reality is none of us will know until we get there ourselves. So whatever it comes after death, we have a task to remember. To hold Sally in every memory, in every story that we tell, because that is our human way of providing everlasting life, even as we deal with what is. I will hold Sally as someone who was not a flashy person. She was not on the board. She did not stand up and run things here. Instead, she made sure that this place would continue by her presence, by her support, by her kindness. My conversations with her were a joy, whether they were here in the church or with her when she was struggling at home. I will hold her as one of my beloved dead, as I know you will too. And she will go on in our lives, in our memories, in the little things that are part of us, the history of this place and many others, the traditions and the communities of those who loved them. All our beloved dead continue in moments that pass by with a gentle smile or a joyous laugh, a taste of ice cream, a conversation about the topics of the day. When we board a plane or come home after travel, a moment of thanks or unexpected passion and enthusiasm, and with deep, deep remembrance. St. John Chrysostom wrote, "She whom we love and lose is no longer where she was before. She is now wherever we are." And so Sally is now here and wherever we are. And wherever else she may be as well. Hopefully it is a grand adventure and a marvelous new travel, something that she can find fascinating and joyful and worth traveling. And in this time, we will also know that she is and will always be held in love. Amen.
One of the geometric shapes that Sally loved was circles. So it is appropriate that at this time in the service, we have what's called a circle of sharing. And so I invite Lisa and Rachel and Janice up one at a time to share their circle of sharing with you. And then after they are finished, if there's anyone here that would like to speak, you are also free to come up to do that. Lisa.
Hello. I thought that it would be nice to share the first day that I met Sally. I was young, maybe about 8 or 9, and visiting my grandmother, Eileen Sarkissian, and she said, "We're going to have a great day today. We're going to go to a dinosaur museum, and Uncle Peter's girlfriend's going to be there to meet us." And that she had me at dinosaur museum, but the real, the best part about it was that was the day I met her. And wishes come true, because I thought that I would love to have her as my aunt. And it came true. I also can remember the look that my grandmother how she looked looking at Sally, and she was in love with her also. So, thanks for sharing.
I first met Sally through making friends with Holly our freshman year at Brandeis University, which was about 18 years ago. Holly would invite me to stay with her for spring breaks and Thanksgivings, and Sally welcomed me with open arms from the very beginning. After college, our tradition continued, and I would come up to visit, even just for a relaxing weekend once in a while. As some of you may know or may have learned today, Holly sometimes has a tendency to sleep late in the mornings. So mornings were the time for Sally to make her beloved big breakfast of coffee, bagels, and omelets, and for she and I to have one-on-one time to chat, get to know each other, and learn all the interesting stories from her life. It was from Sally I first learned just how recently single women started to be able to open their own credit card, and how recently colleges and universities used to have single-sex dorms with curfews for the women's dorms. I remember Sally's exasperation at how her dorm curfew was 9 p.m., but the library was open until 10 p.m. Sally's heart was so warm, open, and giving. And Holly's chosen family became her chosen family. Sorry, this is very embarrassing. Sally always kept up with where I was living, what job I was working, and never forgot to send a birthday card. I was grateful to have gotten to spend time with Sally at the recent wedding of our friends Caroline and Adam. She was there because, like I said, Holly's chosen family became her chosen family. When my husband and I got married at City Hall earlier this year, Sally made sure to let me know she wanted an invite to the party we were going to have to celebrate later this year. It breaks my heart that she won't get to be there in person, but I know she'll be there in spirit. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Janice Vitullo. I'm married to John Sarkissian, Sally's brother-in-law. I would like to say that I think Sally was an awesome mother. She always put Holly first without overindulging her, and instilled in her a strong sense of ethics and morality. She gently guided Holly to become the best person she could be, and provided by her own actions an example of kindness, generosity, and community service. When I was teaching, I used to say that a person can tell which kids had great parents. Holly is the living testimony to what a great parent and person Sally was. She will be greatly missed.
for anyone who would like to come up and say anything about Sally, you are absolutely welcome, and there was time left now for anyone who wanted to do that. I'll happily get us started off in saying that I was laughing on the way here thinking, there are so many of you that I know from the stories that Sally tells that I probably will not recognize today by face. So I'll apologize, and I may, once I know your name, say, I know a whole bunch of things, mostly good, and I'll forget all the rest. Sally would do that to me regularly. I would find out that she had been talking about me, telling stories about what Doug had done down in North Carolina with his daughters, with all of these different things. And the further away from me that she got, the more blurry the story probably was to her, and it was really funny how she would end some things not at all close to where reality might lie. So if you ask me something, I might say, actually, let me give you a little correction on that. There's a kernel right there that's actually accurate, and all the rest is just fun. Sally was very unique in her ability to reach out and touch all of us. I don't think we'd be sitting here if that wasn't the case. I've had more people tell me this summer how sorry they were that I lost my aunt, or offer me condolences. And to each one of them, it very quickly became apparent that the place where I feel the best is filled with gratitude. I'm 55 years old, and I got to know my aunt for my entire life. I got to live with her for little periods of time. She touched me in more ways than I can tell you. I don't need anyone to feel sorry, because she was a beautiful woman. And I really do feel like I'm one of the luckiest people in the world, having gotten to know her as well as I did for as long as I did. And I really appreciate all of you being here, helping us remember.
People won't be able to.
Nobody will be able to hear you.
Okay.
I just wanted to say, when I moved here from Houston 4 years ago, I was in Fisk Hall, and it's the first time I'd been here. And so here comes up Sally. I was sitting there by myself, just kind of sipping some coffee, looking around, trying to not make eye contact with anybody. And anyway, Sally came up and said, I want to introduce you to the community here, because I know that you don't know much about the area. And I said, no, I don't. And she said, well, let's get to know each other, and want to welcome you here. And so later on that afternoon, I got home and I got a phone call. And she said, I met you this morning, and I wanted to introduce you to Real Art Ways, which made me smile, because this month the money here is going to Real Art Ways. And I said, oh, they must have known Sally, that was her favorite place. So she would call and she said, do you want to go to Real Art Ways with me? And I said, well, I guess I will. What is it? And she said, well, come see. And so she came and got me, and we went to see a movie, looked at the art exhibits, and went out to eat afterwards. And then that became a ritual. She'd call and she went, have you looked at the paper? Or, have you looked on the internet there, and what's on at Real Art Ways? You want to go see something? Even up until, I guess, in end of April, we went over there and saw a movie together and went out to eat afterwards. So it became a real deal with me, and I joined Real Art Ways, and I go, and now I really like that memory. And the other one was, she called me. I noticed coming over here today that Talcott Mountain's having that music thing at the top. What is it? March to the Top of what? Yeah, go to the top for the music, whatever it's called. And she called and she said, everybody I know is way too old to walk up that mountain, but would you go with me? And I said, well, yeah, I can go up that mountain, I think, if you go slow enough for me to. And she said, sure, I want to go up there. I love music, and I want you to go up the mountain with me. And I said, oh, okay. So we walked up to the top of the mountain, and she just talked to all the musicians. And I don't know what, it was some magic about her or what, but you bought raffle tickets there, and she bought 5 raffle tickets and put them in, and I did too. And she won 4 things. They called her name out. She won getting her car washed in detail. She won an airplane ride around the thing. She won, and she says, they just keep calling my name. And I said, I'm going to go with you to more places. You have some magic. But anyway, she did introduce me to a lot, took me to the women's art thing every year over here. And so anyway, she really made me feel welcome here.
Am I getting the microphone right? Okay. I'm Leanne Winterfriedman, and I am a friend of Sally's from Bucknell. I met Sally in the fall of 1964 when we were on the same hallway in the, quote, new women's dorm. And Sally had just come back from visiting her sister Nancy and husband somewhere in the Midwest, maybe Ohio. And she had met her nephew, Doug. And she was in love with the baby. She showed me pictures of an outfit that she had sent to him. It was pale blue and it had a football on it. So, Doug, she had aspirational hopes for you. You're still wearing it? I knew it. Anyhow, Sally and I were kind of misfits at Bucknell. It was a very kind of high-powered, cliquey crowd from wealthy suburbs of New York City and Philadelphia. And we didn't quite fit in. She told me that when she visited Nancy in the Midwest, she had gone with Nancy to a Pi Beta Phi luncheon. Now, Pi Beta Phi was one of the sororities at Bucknell. And because Sally was there, they weren't able to do their secret handshake or say their secret words. Now, who knew? They had secret words. To this day, I'm sure neither Sally nor I have a clue what that would be. I talked to her in that year because I had just come back from Yellowstone Park, where I had worked at Old Faithful Campers Cabins, and the next year Sally went out there. When she was in London, when Tom and I got married in 1969, but when she moved to West Hartford, we reconnected and started seeing each other and really, really enjoyed a long friendship. And as I wrote to Holly, we were present on one of Sally and Peter's first dates, I think. It was a weekend, and it must have been around St. Patrick's Day because we went out with another guy on a Saturday night somewhere, and she gave that guy a tin of mint meringue cookies colored green. The next day we met Pete, and we went to something over at Stratford. I think there used to be a Shakespeare theater there, and I think we saw Our Town. And she gave Peter an identical tin of cookies. Well, from all of the other visits from that time on, it was just Sally and Peter. So we enjoyed so many years of that friendship, and I just so much miss her. Holly, I was your first babysitter.
And now we will hear from John Sarkeesian, Sally's brother-in-law.
Sally and I graduated from the same high school, but we did not know each other at that time. It was, of course, through my brother Pete, Sally's husband for 30 years, that my family came to know Sally and to love her. My sister Rosemary could not be here in person today, and our brother and our parents are no longer with us. So, as we commemorate Sally, I'm going to attempt to represent those members of our family who cannot speak today, particularly Pete. I still keep a picture of my brother and me taken at his and Sally's wedding in May 1979. He looks happy in that picture, as happy as I had ever seen him. And well he should have been. He had found the right person who, by sharing her life with him, would make him an even better person. And he had just committed himself to her, and Sally had committed herself to him. Sally's commitment to Pete extended to over a decade of care and comfort as he fought an inevitably losing battle with cancer. Even as Pete was processing the initial shock of his diagnosis, Sally was gathering information so that when Pete was ready, they would be well on their way to planning their response and deciding on treatments. She provided similar valuable practical guidance when we were dealing with our aging parents. She anticipated and suggested ways to address those concerns that one would prefer not to think about. Sally, as I remember her, chose to be cheerful and upbeat. She knew sadness, having lost both her parents before she had turned 40, but she faced life's challenges calmly and with fortitude, and maintained all the while her good humor. And this combination of mental and emotional toughness and positive energy sustained and comforted my brother. But let me recall some happier times. The birthday parties Sally planned for Holly, which brought the family together, my parents, my sister and her family, Sally's own sister's family, my mother's sister too. And when Holly got too old to entertain the guests by plunging her hands into the frosted cake, Sally shifted the event to an annual 4th of July celebration. Sally thought about others. Dinners shared with foreign students who had nowhere to go for the holidays. Holly mentioned shopping for elderly people. I remember one phone conversation with Sally where she told me she was off to a UConn women's basketball game. More than a year after Pete's passing, she was treating his home health care worker to a game. I don't recall Sally's being much of a basketball fan, but Pete's helper certainly was. We, on the Sarkissian side of the family, last saw Sally in February. She was not in the best of health, but she traveled from Hartford to Myrtle Beach for the wedding of her niece's son. It cannot have been an easy trip for her, but she made sure that she was there. Tomorrow will be the anniversary of the day Sally brought her daughter into the world. I know how proud Sally was of Holly, and I feel that she deserves a great deal of credit for the person Holly has become. Mother and daughter remained always very close. I think I can say best of friends. So now, as we remember Sally, let's also think of Holly, and going forward, give her the love and support she deserves and needs.
And now just remain seated and turn your gray hymnals to number 34, Though I May Speak with Bravest First. I invite Kristen Guess to speak her remembrance.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Living in West Hartford, or WEHA, as we affectionately call it, wasn't the same for me as it was for a lot of my friends. My time outside of school was spent in a hospital bed, a doctor's office, or laying on a couch. As my journey navigating childhood and chronic illness began at age 5, I found my prized walks with my family in the park to become fewer and farther between. Lucky for me, one of those fewer walks were spent going to my elementary school, Duffy, on a day when my life changed for the better this time. Dad and I were headed for the swings, my fave, when we were stopped by a tall, to me, smiling, excited, and very perky girl who was the same age as me. "Hi, I'm Holly," came from that smiling face. "I live right there," she pointed to the third house just along the border of the school's field. Dad was pretty delighted to meet such a nice, outgoing young new friend. I may have been slightly excited too. "Holly, what a lovely name," he said. "Yeah," the conversation continued. My last name is Sarkissian, but if my last name was Wood, I would be Hollywood. If my last name was Berry, I would be a Holly Berry." Dad got a kick out of that and still tells the story at gatherings and to Holly herself every single time. That not-so-chance meeting commenced 30-plus years of a friendship of love, understanding, gratitude, and honesty. Adventures abounded and new discoveries came to be. The biggest one being that we have the same middle name, after loved ones that we have left us or that we love very dearly. Without meeting Holly, I would never have then met Sally. Sally and her husband Pete were not as openly untamed by new social settings. Sally needed to either get to know you first, or at least know that her daughter was super close to you herself, which wasn't incredibly hard. That, however, is where the differences I've noticed between Sally and Holly end. Just like her daughter, Sally has always been a warm and inviting spirit, an active fighter in causes about which she cared, and most importantly, a tenacious and giving spirit, not afraid to tell you what she thinks in a way that left me feeling way more grateful than offended. Sally valued community and created it wherever she went, evidenced by the long talks in her kitchen and the numerous offers of ice cream or coffee at 10 years old, it's okay, as well as the many people I knew to be spending time in the Sarkissian household, not to mention her special orange cranberry chicken she brought over after my mother passed away, which I got none of. I have guys in the house, you know. Sally always cared to ask me about my latest updates on health and healing, and sent a card when I was leaving the hospital, entering the hospital, and also when I was blessed enough to see another birthday, or just because she wanted to say hello. Throughout my time in high school, college, and even when Holly and I reunited to take over New York City, Sally's cards kept flowing to warm my heart and adorn my dresser. I am thankful for the parents my best friend had to guide her on being an upstanding and loving citizen. And I'm especially grateful for Sally, who showed me what it is to be a force and an independent, strong, mindful, and jovial woman all by herself. My deepest gratitude, though, goes to the opportunity to meet and know Sally throughout the years, while also holding dear the unyielding support of her amazing daughter, which I've always felt and will never take for granted. Sally, as you took your last earthly breath, I hope that at least one of the thoughts that ran through your mind was how great of a community you have formed around your daughter and what you have equipped her with to continue to build her own community, to love and to be loved. At the very least, please hear me now when I say the love you showed will continue to be poured into our Holly, and your legacy is not only in her, but in this church, in the people you have touched, and in the amazing work of your life, the love over the struggle. T.C. Boyle said, "The hardest part is always the middle of anything, because at that point, on some unconscious level, you have to figure out what it's about and why you're doing it and what it means. You don't know that in the beginning." Sally made it to the end of the journey of life, and whether she figured it out or not, she did it well. Always peace, my friend. Rest easy.
I had this reading bookmarked, but the bookmark fell out, so, okay, it's here. Okay. This is Finding Our Dreams by Reverend Teresa I. Soto. The world, this is dedicated to my mom's. She was definitely a dreamer, so this is dedicated to her dreaming nature. The world makes many demands on your time, your skin, your heart, until you are left grasping and wondering if you will ever do enough, have enough, be enough. Stop your counting, measuring, and checking. You are enough. So much more than enough. You, made from fragments of the galaxy, you do measure up. And to recover from the doubt pressed upon you, the antidote for doubt is dreaming. All the dreams that call to you, lime green and frosting pink dreams, the other soft and tender dreams that run blue to gray, sky indistinguishable from the lulling sea. The dreams that seem impossible, listen, that's their nature. If they had already happened, then they would be realities, solid and smooth, like the round bone home of an unbroken egg. Be brave enough to name your dream, nurture it, and allow the rhythm of your breath to bring your dreams to life. Thank you.
As this celebration comes to a close, let us all truly be brave enough to name our dreams and nurture them and support them in our communities of faith, love, and hope, and in our interconnections, whether it be saying hello to someone on the playground for the first time or running into someone at the ice cream parlor. Whatever it may be, let us nurture each other as Sally would have nurtured us. As we speak the words of our shared benediction this day, let each one of us know that Sally's love of life and her energy resonates within you, you who are enough. Please join me now in providing her, Sally, with this, our shared benediction in your program. Go out into the world in peace. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. And honor all beings. And now I invite you to partay, as Sally would say. The reception is in the program center, and you can go either direction out these doors, and it's right directly back that way. So thank you all very much for being here, and come and enjoy the festivities. Okay, great. Thank you.